Salutations, movie talkers. Welcome to AMC Mail Bag. This is the mailbag edition, obviously, of AMC Movie News, where all we do is take your questions. And this is a much more... My name's John Campea, by the way. I'm the editor-in-chief over at AMC Movie News. And this is a much more laid-back show. This is really more like talk radio in many ways, AMC Mailbag. We don't have a lot of fancy production. It's just you and me sitting here talking movies, talking about what's going on in the movie world. And this is our second try at this. We started the show a few minutes ago, and apparently you guys broke YouTube. Go figure. Somebody is saying Warner Brothers sabotaged our stream because they knew we were all so angry about what's going on with Batman versus Superman. That is clearly not the case, but it's funny to say things like that. Thanks a lot for joining me, guys. Obviously, the big topic of discussion today, pardon me, and this disclaimer again, I'm going to be coughing a lot. I'm still sick. I'm going to be sucking on halls a lot, but I want to do the show. I didn't want to skip the show, so we are doing the show today. A couple of house cleaning issues. I'm going to let you guys know that this, I believe, is going to be our last live AMC mailbag for a while. We are going to start doing pre-recorded mailbags to air on Saturdays and Sundays. And the reason being is because I like to give the staff, the AMC Movie News staff, the weekends off. They work really hard during the week, and I like to give them the weekends off. And I think it's better, AMC Mailbag is better when it's not just me. I think it's better for you guys when we have other people here as well, so we can have some more discussion and more points of view than just mine. Now, obviously, mine is the right point of view. All you need is mine, and everything's fine, right? Well, maybe not. In reality, it's much better when we have other points of view, when we have other people on the show. So I think moving forward, what we're going to do is have AMC Mailbag with multiple people, so we're going to pre-record those mailbag shows. The other little piece of housekeeping news is, once we are done talking about our main topic, because we got like 50,000 people have emailed in asking about the Batman versus Superman, and obviously them pushing Man of Steel 2 back nearly a year is going to be our main topic today. But then we're going to take questions from the live chat, but instead of taking it from the chat board, I'd like you guys to send your questions in to our email address because it's just me today. So it's a lot easier for me to handle the incoming questions when they come in on the email. So send your questions to amcmovietalk@gmail.com. And then as we're getting close to the end of the show or in the second half of the show, we'll take the questions from there and we will go from there. So with all that being said, let's get to the main topic today. I don't have an email to read because, like I said, so many of you guys emailed in asking about this whole Man of Steel thing. Now, for those of you who have not heard, Man of Steel, which is supposed to come out in the summer of 2015, has been delayed. It has been pushed back nearly a year, 10 months, to May 6th, 2016. So it has been pushed back that far. Now, before I go into my point of view on this and what I think this means, let me clear something up. There are a lot of people who like to argue with me by saying, oh, John, you're just a DC fanboy. And then I have other people who will hammer me with, John, you're just a Marvel fanboy. Like, I can't win for losing. Like, I get accused of just being a DC fanboy, and then I get accused of just being a Marvel fanboy. To the people who say I'm just a DC fanboy, then explain the fact that I call the greatest superhero movie that has ever been made The Avengers. I think it's better than The Dark Knight. I think it's better than anything DC has done. I think The Avengers is the best superhero movie ever made. Now, you may have a different opinion, and that's totally cool, but that's my opinion, and I say it all the time. So, if you're going to accuse me of just being a blind DC fanboy, then you're an idiot. Because, if I was a blind DC fanboy, then I would call a DC movie the greatest comic book superhero movie ever made. I don't. I call it The Avengers. Then for those of you who say I'm just a Marvel fanboy. Oh, I'm just a Marvel fanboy. Okay. This, in 2013, we had 4 major superhero movies. 3 of them were Marvel ones. One was a DC, one was a DC movie in Man of Steel. And what did I call the greatest comic book superhero movie of 2013? It wasn't Wolverine. It wasn't any of the other ones. It wasn't Thor 2, and I really like Thor 2. Man of Steel. Man of Steel, to me, hands down, best comic book movie of 2013. Easy. Easy. If I was just a blind Marvel fanboy, I wouldn't say that. I don't care. Now, I know there's a lot of you guys out there who are really super passionate about being a DC fan or about being a Marvel fan. There's a big DC versus Marvel thing. I'll tell you straight up, I don't give a crap. I really don't care. I don't care who's making Avengers 2. I don't care who's making Man of Steel or who's making the Wolverine movie or who's going to make a Flash movie. I don't care if it's Marvel, DC. I'm a movie guy. All I care about is give me a good movie. That's all I care about. I do not care if it comes from Marvel. I do not care if it comes from Warner Brothers and DC. I don't give a crap. All I care about is a good movie. So let me just get that out of the way about am I a DC fanboy? I'm a Marvel fanboy before we get into this thing. Now, first of all, there's a rumor going around that this delay was caused because of a Ben Affleck leg injury. There was a report going around that Ben Affleck busted up his leg, and that's why they've delayed it by 10 months. From what I hear, it's a totally false rumor. Ben Affleck's leg is totally fine. He was at the Golden Globes. Apparently, he's shooting Gone Girl right now, and apparently he's on set shooting the movie there. So from what I understand, there's no truth to the whole Ben Affleck hurt his leg thing. That's not the reason they delayed the movie. All right? And even if he had hurt his leg, unless he was in some kind of car accident that busted his leg in 18 different places, it wouldn't delay the movie 10 months. Look, Anderson Silva, last month, the UFC fighter, and if you haven't seen this, you need to look this up on YouTube. Look up Anderson Silva leg break. It is one of the most horrific things you've ever seen. Anderson Silva throws a leg kick on Weidman. Weidman checks it with his knee, and Anderson Silva's shin snaps in two, and his leg just flops around. I mean, it's one of the most disturbing things you've ever seen. If you haven't seen it, look it up on YouTube. Guess what? Anderson Silva's already walking around with a crutch. And he's going to be walking without a cane or crutches perfectly fine in 4 weeks from now. So unless Ben Affleck had a dump truck fall on his leg and crush his leg in 45 different places, that wouldn't delay the movie by 10 months. So, and an interesting thing about them moving, this May 6th, 2016 date, that's 1 week. That's just 1 week away from the release of X-Men Apocalypse. So it's almost like... Pardon me, guys. It's almost like they're playing chicken a little bit with Fox on this. And I believe it's like 1 week also away from another major film that's coming out as well. So it's an interesting new date. So let's not even talk about the fact that they've moved for a second. This date of May 6th, 2016, this is really interesting because that is just 1 week removed right now from Fox's, from what they've announced at any rate, this X-Men Apocalypse project that they're working on. So there's a little bit of chicken going on there. So I fully expect between now and 2000 and the end of 2015, one of those two movies is going to announce that they're changing dates again. Because I just cannot see DC releasing a Batman versus Superman and Fox releasing X-Men Age of Apocalypse 1 week away from each other. It would be just mutually assured destruction. It would hurt both of them. So I just cannot see that's something that's going to happen. It's just a terrible idea. Now, some people have suggested that why did they move the date? Why has Batman versus Superman moved their date almost a full year? One of the things I want to get out of the way, and I want to clear this up, because this is a huge misnomer. This is a huge myth. All right? Some people are saying because they needed the time, because as it was, they were rushing it. They were rushing Man of Steel 2, and they realized they were rushing it, and now they have to delay it a year to make sure they get it right. Let's dispel that right now. In what universe is over 2 full years rushing it to get a movie made? Seriously, in what world is over 2 full years to develop and make a movie considered rushing it? It's not rushing it. It's not rushing it at all. Zack Snyder got on the stage at Comic-Con this past summer, 7 months ago, and announced the world, we're coming, Batman vs. Superman. They already had their outline done. David Goyer and Zack Snyder already had their basic story outline finished. They had already cast Ben Affleck by that point, although nobody knew it at the time. So Ben Affleck was cast. You got all your returning cast from Man of Steel 2. You got your story outline already, and that was 7 months ago. More than 2 full years away from when they were going to release, at the time, Man of Steel 2, Batman vs. Superman. That was not rushing it. Anybody who tries to say that that was them rushing it, that's a fantasy. That's just making up excuses. Because that 2 full years, when you've already got your major cast, you've already got your story outline, you've already got the green light, and you're already making announcements at Comic-Con about it, that ain't rushing it. In any way, shape, or form, in no world, in no universe, in no fantasy realm of reality, was 2 full years, when you've already got that big of a head start, rushing it. So no, Batman vs. Superman was not being rushed. They had plenty of time, lots of time in front of them, and they already had a huge head start. So there was no rushing it. Now, some other people are suggesting they've moved it 10 months so they can get rid of Gal Gadot. Look, they ain't getting rid of Gal Gadot. They're not. As much as I would like to see them drop Gal Gadot, as much as I would like to see Gal Gadot have the opportunity to play in about 5, 6, 7 more movies with smaller roles, getting bigger, have time to be trained as an actress, because she's not a very good actress right now, and develop, and then give her a major shot at a major project like that, as much as I would like to see that happen, that is not what Warner Brothers is doing. They've made their selection, and they're going to stick with it. And do I think it was a mistake? Obviously, we've gone into this a lot. Do I think it was a mistake selecting Gal Gadot? Yes, I do. However, they've made the decision, and now it's time to stick with it. And I think they're going to ride this out. I mean, if nothing else, it gives Gal Gadot another year to get better as an actress. And that can't be bad. So maybe that's a good thing. But here's what it comes down to. In moving Batman vs. Superman nearly a full year, Warner Brothers, DC, has shown a chink in their armor of incompetence, and that they have dropped the ball. Incompetence, and they have dropped the ball. Now, before any of you get too upset about me saying that, let's keep in mind, I, more than once or twice, every once in a while, show chinks in my armor of incompetence, and I drop the ball. Paramount shows incompetence and drops the ball. Disney, Marvel, Fox, Lionsgate, every studio shows incompetence sometimes and drops the ball sometimes. I do it, they do it, you do it. We all do it. None of us are perfect. It happens. But make no mistake, this is a situation, this is a circumstance of incompetence and dropping the ball. The only question here is not if WB showed some incompetence and if WB dropped the ball. That's not the question. The question is, when did it happen? Because you got a couple of options here. Either number one, something has gone terribly wrong now, and they're dropping the ball. They realized what we have done sucks. What we have sucks. We need to really go back and start from scratch, from page 1. We need to do whatever, and they drop the ball. Or they dropped the ball 7 months ago. by coming out and announcing to the world at Comic-Con, we're doing Batman versus Superman, and it's coming on, it's coming in the summer of 2015. Yay, it's coming, yay. Were they incompetent then? Did Warner Brothers and DC jump the gun so much? Did they not have their storyline? Now, from everything I've been told, Zack Snyder, David Goyer already had their story outline. It was done. Were they incompetent then? Did they have a terrible storyline and just thought we're going to do it anyway? Did they not have their ducks in a row? Were they so premature in getting off that they got in front of the audience at Comic-Con and dropped this huge bomb on us, Batman vs. Superman 2015, when really they were not in a position to do so? Or did they drop the ball now? Are they just now making some rapid changes? Now, here's a theory. We talked on AMC Movie Talk the other day that one of the things that they could do, there was a rumor going around that they were going to shoot Justice League back-to-back with Man of Steel 2. So shoot Man of Steel 2 and then shoot Justice League. And I said at the time on AMC Movie Talk, I said, I don't think that's going to happen because it takes you a while to be ready to shoot something like that. And there's no indication that they've been prepping for that, to shoot two major films back to back. So I just couldn't see any reality where they were going to shoot Justice League back to back with Man of Steel 2. But here we are today on Saturday, January the 18th. And now they've pushed Man of Steel 2 back almost a full year. So there is a theory running around out there that, hey, now that we've got this theory going on, now that it's been pushed back nearly a year, maybe now they'll have time to prep a Justice League movie and shoot it back to back with Man of Steel 2. That is a working feasible theory. And I've always said that if you know you're doing a set of movies, shoot them back to back. It just makes sense. Because then you know everybody's schedule. It costs a lot less money to do it when you can just shoot it back to back. It just makes sense. And then you don't have to wait, the fans wait 2 or 3 years in between movies. You can release one and then release one the very next year. Makes sense. But here's the problem. If that's the case, then that means that Warner Brothers and DC lacked any foresight to think that this was a possibility 6 months ago. Why wasn't this a part of your planning 6 months ago? You know, one of the things that Warner Brothers and DC has been accused of a lot over the past couple of years with their DC properties is the fact that they have no faith in it and they have no foresight with it. That they've never put serious effort into their long-term planning with their properties, that they've never shown faith in their properties, and that they've executed poorly with their properties. And I think that's unfair, accusing DC and Warner Brothers of executing poorly. I think, yeah, the last Green Lantern movie wasn't all that great, but look at the Dark Knight movies Warner Brothers gave us. I didn't like The Dark Knight Rises, but overall as a trilogy, that is a great set of movies. So I think it's unfair for people to constantly point at Warner Brothers and say they always drop the ball with their DC movies, because they don't. Sometimes they do, but they've proven to give us some really good movies too, and I think Man of Steel was awesome. But it has been fair to accuse them that they've lacked foresight in their planning with their DC, that they've never had a long-term plan with their DC properties, and that they've shown a lack of faith in their DC properties. And I think those criticisms are very fair. So if the reason that they have delayed Man of Steel 2, Batman vs. Superman, after promising the fans they were going to give it to us in this mega 2015 year, if the reason they're doing that is because now they've decided to do Justice League back-to-back with Man of Steel 2, then once again, it shows that Warner Brothers has no foresight. Why didn't you know that 6 months ago? When you're sitting there making your plans and making all your big grandstanding Comic-Con announcements about your big movie, why hadn't you thought of that 6 months ago? And now it makes me think that if you hadn't had this in your plan 6 months ago, now you're jumping the gun. Now you're last second, hey, oh, wait a minute. I know we're getting ready to shoot Man of Steel 2, but wait a minute, what if we shoot Justice League back to back? Yeah, stop everything. Let's do that now. That shows me lack of foresight. That shows me lack of planning. And either way you cut this, there's no way to look at this in a way that Warner Brothers looks good. Either you dropped the ball 6 months ago and you showed incompetence then and you messed everything up then and now you're just trying to correct all your mistakes, or you're dropping the ball now by thinking, wait a minute, now let's do a Justice League. Yeah, now let's do it. Change everything. Put the brakes on. I know we told the fans the movie's coming in 2015, but put the brakes on. Now we'll do Justice League. You're not giving it thought. You're not planning it out appropriately. You're not planning it out right. You're just kind of, it feels to me that Warner Brothers is just being very reactionary instead of what Marvel has traditionally done, which has had a huge long-term plan. Marvel's already planning their 2018 films. Their 2018 films are already in the planning stages for. They had Avengers on the drawing board for years before it ever happened. They laid everything out, and when they knew they had everything, all their blueprints right, then they went into action. Warner Brothers, with their DC properties, it's felt very reactionary, no long-term planning, no foresight, no confidence, and it feels like they're just kind of playing it as they go. They're playing it by ear. Just, what should we do now? What should we do now? What should we do now? Instead of having the confidence 6 months ago to say we want to do Man of Steel 2, we've got our story outline, and then we want to do Justice League and lead into that. Let's do back-to-back and start scripting that out now too, and blah, blah, blah. Instead of that, we get a lot of reactionary crap. And so, look, and we should also keep this in mind too. We don't know what's going on at Warner Brothers. We don't know. We're speculating. I'm speculating. But that's my job, right? I can look at the facts in front of me and then try to speculate as to what could be the cause for all this. And it could be something completely different. We have to keep in mind, pardon me, guys, that there might be another element at play here at Warner Brothers that none of us are aware of. I doubt it, but that is a possibility, and we do have to keep that in mind. But on the surface, this is just a mess. It's just a mess, no matter which way you cut it. And at the end of the day, maybe they did drop the ball 6 months ago and they screwed everything up 6 months ago, and now they're just trying to do damage control. Well, if that's the case, and at the end of the day, it's a good thing they're doing damage control, then it's a good thing they're bumping it 10 months or a year. But it still means that you really dropped the ball and screwed everything up 6 months ago. And now you're left with this mess that they have to clean up. Like I said, I just don't see any way to look at this entire Man of Steel 2 being delayed thing in a positive light. There's no way to look at this positively. It's unfortunate, but the end result may still be that we get a great Batman versus Superman movie. Yes, they've dropped the ball. Yes, everything is screwed up. Yes, they've shown lack of foresight. Yes, they've shown lack of confidence. Yes, they show that they've been reactionary instead of proactive. They've been reactive instead of proactive. Yes, yes, yes. All that is true. But the end result may still be that they give us a great movie. And that may very well be the case. I still think there's a very good possibility. I still have a lot of faith in Warner Brothers that we're going to get a great Batman versus Superman movie. I think we're going to get a great Man of Steel 2, that eventually we're going to get a great Justice League. I believe in them, and I believe all that can happen. But that doesn't change the fact that right now, the way they've handled everything up until this point, the way they're handling this now, the way they've been reactionary instead of reactive instead of proactive, no long-term sight, no whatever, it's still a mess now. And maybe now they're just scrambling to clean up their mess and try to make it right, whatever. Bottom line is, everything is a mess, but we could very well, and I still believe we're going to get great movies. So that's just the way I looked at it. But the question that comes up for us fans is going to be, now, then what has changed? Why 2 weeks ago on Jimmy Kimmel, or 1 week ago on Jimmy Kimmel. Why was Amy Adams on Jimmy Kimmel saying, yeah, our script is done. It's great. We start shooting really soon. Yay. And now 1 or 2 weeks later, we're moving it almost a year. What has been the significant change between then and now? There's a couple of options. A couple of we've already mentioned. Number one, they've decided to do a Justice League movie and do it back-to-back with Man of Steel 2, in which case they've needed more time, being reactive instead of proactive. They've realized that their script is garbage, and they really do need to do... Now, we all know that they brought in Ben Affleck's boy. They brought in Ben Affleck's screenwriter from Argo, who won the Academy Award for Best Screenplay. They brought him in to clean up the script. Maybe they've realized, you know what, this script is a bigger mess than we thought, and it needs much more work than we thought, and we got to start this thing over, and we need to go. That's a possible explanation, but it just means you've really screwed things up in the past 6 months already. If your story outline wasn't ready to go at Comic-Con, then why get up at Comic-Con and tell us that this is what's happening? So that's an option. They need to completely rework the script. They want to do Justice League back-to-back. Another option is they want to do some recasting, but I still don't see why recasting would necessitate a 10-month delay. Obviously, something significant happened. The only question is, what was the significant thing? It's either the Justice League back-to-back. It's either our script was a total mess. But once again, we're left with nothing but a mess. Either way, it's still a mess. And now it's time for us to reset our brains, get 2015 as far as, Man of Steel and Batman goes out of our head, and just start looking forward to 2016. And despite everything I've said about how badly this has been botched, about how much incompetence and how much dropping the ball and a big mess that this all is, despite all of that, I'm still looking forward to Batman versus Superman, kids. I am. As long as you don't put Robin in it. As long as you don't put Robin. As long as you still don't put Robin in it. I'm not going to open up that whole hornet's nest again. But I'm still looking forward to Batman versus Superman. I still have faith in Zack Snyder. I have loads of faith in Ben Affleck. Warner Brothers gives us great films outside of their DC properties. But even inside their DC properties, they gave us Man of Steel, which I thought kicked ass. And they gave us the Dark Knight trilogy. I didn't like the Dark Knight Rises, but overall, the trilogy is quite solid. I'm looking forward to Batman versus Superman. Doesn't matter if it's coming out in 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, whatever. I'm looking forward to it. And I'm going to be the first one in line to go see it. No matter what type of mess and how disgusting everything looks in advance, I'm still going to be there. I'm going to be the first in line, and I'm going to look forward to it. And I know a lot of you guys feel the same way as I do. So listen, guys, I've gone on and on and on and ranted about this now for over a half hour. It's time to take questions from you guys. Now, remember, because I have nobody here with me today, I'm not going to read questions off the chat board because it just scrolls like this. It's just, I can't keep up with it. So if you want a question on the chat here on the show, do me a favor and email your question to amcmovietalk@gmail.com. amcmovietalk@gmail.com. Fire it in over there. And I'm going to start pulling out some questions and start reading them. And we'll just go from there. And I don't know how much longer the show's going to go. My throat is starting to give out, but I will do my best. And thanks, by the way, again, guys, thank you for hanging in there with me. I know it's annoying listening to, it's super annoying listening to somebody talk while they're sucking on candies. It's rude. Quite frankly, it's rude that I'm doing that. And I'm constantly having to smack my mouth and I'm coughing and clearing my throat. I know it's a pain in the ass and it's annoying. So thank you so much for hanging in there with me as we do that. All right, I'm going to open up some questions here. And the first one I'm going to open up in here comes from Justin Hoddock, who writes in regarding Batman vs. Superman. Let me make sure I get this right. Is there a possibility that Snyder and Warner Brothers realized that there was so much going on in the Batman vs. Superman movie that they decided to extend it into a 2-part movie like Peter Jackson did with The Hobbit? So is it possible that Warner Brothers and Zack Snyder realized that, hey, we've got so much going on that we need to pull a Peter Jackson and turn Man of Steel 2 from 1 film into 2 films? Yes. That's possible. But it would still raise the concern to me that why didn't you know this 6 months ago? You remember Peter Jackson, I believe he was almost done shooting all of the Hobbit stuff. Because when we talked to him at Comic-Con, I know they were already well into shooting. I know they had finished shooting a whole ton of stuff. And it was at that point that Peter Jackson said, we've got so much material here, we can split it from 2 movies into 3 movies. At this point, when production hasn't even started, my question would become, well, what's changed between 3 months ago and now? Why didn't you know? Why weren't you guys aware when you looked at your script and you looked at your story outline and your character lineup and all that kind of stuff? Why didn't you know 3 months ago that you needed to do that? So while it's possible, Justin, that that's the case, that maybe they just looked at all this and said, you know what? We're going to make 2. We're going to make Man of Steel 2 and Man of Steel 3 back to back because we've got enough stuff here for 2 movies. That is a possibility. Once again, I would raise the question of, you haven't even started production yet. Why didn't you know this 3 months ago? Just a thought. But it is certainly possible. All right. Next email here comes from Terrence Fisher. And Terrence is writing in and asking, so one of the things I was hoping for at Comic-Con this year was to see some early footage of the Batman. Now, when we say this year, he's probably talking about 2014, not this past year. So one of the things I was hoping to see at Comic-Con this coming year was to see some early footage of the Batman Superman movie. So with shooting still being in April, do you think that we will still possibly see some footage? I'll be honest with you. I'll be surprised if they still shoot in April. I'm not, and let's be clear, I haven't seen any announcement official from anybody that suggests they're pushing shooting back. I haven't read that they're not going to start shooting until December or anything like that. As far as we all know, the plan is to still start shooting in April. We haven't heard anything that suggests that they're not still shooting in April. I doubt they're going to shoot in April, though. I have my doubts. I'm certainly not saying that they're not going to shoot in April, but let's say I'll be surprised if they actually still do shoot in April. As far as do we still think that there's a chance that we're going to see Batman vs. Superman footage at Comic-Con this year? I doubt it. There's no reason for them to do it. Because now that they're not releasing in 2016, that means they still have Comic-Con at 2015 where they can do a real presentation and show a lot of stuff. So while it's possible, it is absolutely possible that we could see them bring Batman vs. Superman to Comic-Con this year. I highly, highly doubt it. I personally really doubt it. Okay, next question here comes from Jordan Machio. And Jordan Machio writes in and says, hey, John, just wondering, when are we going to see more movies with other DC characters other than Batman and Superman? Will we see one in 2016? I really need something from DC because Marvel is pumping out 2 to 3 movies per year, and DC is like 1 every 3 years. What do you think? Well, I mean, Jordan, you're not the only one who's been wondering that. I mean, a lot of people have been wondering, where are our other DC characters? Where are they? Where's Aquaman? Where's The Flash? Where's Hawkman? Where's Martian Manhunter? Where's Cyborg? Where's Wonder Woman? For heaven's sakes. Where are all these characters? You're not the only one that's wondering. I don't think 2016 is in the cards. If they've now moved Batman vs. Superman to 2016, I don't think it's going to be in the cards for us to see a standalone DC character movie, a new standalone DC character movie in 2016. It just doesn't seem like that would be feasible at this point. But let's play around with the question. Then who could be the first up? Who, out of all the other, besides Batman and Superman, who could be the first up to have their own standalone movie? I still think there's a very strong possibility it could be another Green Lantern. Warner Brothers is still kind of licking their wounds a little bit over Green Lantern, but I know they still believe in that character. And they should. It's a great character. I still believe there is a possibility we could see another Green Lantern movie before we see a Flash film, or before we see an Aquaman film, or a Martian Manhunter, or anything else for that matter, even before a Wonder Woman. I think that's possible, but Do I think it'll be in 2016? With them moving Batman vs. Superman 2016, I kind of doubt it. All right, let's go to the next question. The next one comes in from Kyle Kizu. And Kyle's writing, and John, I think that this makes sense. Maybe Affleck did get injured and is out for, say, 2 months. Production would only be delayed a couple of months, but they can't release that December alongside Star Wars. Financially, that's stupid. That would fail. Okay, so basically Kyle's theory is this. What if Ben Affleck did get injured, but you can't just bump Batman versus Superman to, say, Christmas. Now you're going head-to-head with Star Wars, so why not move it into early summer of the next year? That's not a bad theory, but my understanding is Ben Affleck is not injured. My understanding is that he has not injured his leg, and that if he has injured his leg, it's not bad enough to stop him from shooting. From what I've heard, he's on set of Gone Girl, and he's shooting Gone Girl right now. So that's not a bad theory. That, it does make sense. If Ben Affleck, say, busted his leg and was going to be out of commission for 2 or 3 months, that does push the movie back a little bit. But then it makes sense to say, hey, we don't want to open up in the Christmas season with this movie, especially with Star Wars being there. So let's move it to early the next summer. That would make sense. But like I said, from what I understand, there's no truth to the Ben Affleck has been injured thing. It is possible, but from my understanding, there's no truth to the Ben Affleck has broken his leg rumor going around. He's up, he's moving, he's functioning, he's shooting another movie as we speak. So that's what I know from there. All right, next question comes to us from John Daly, who writes, I'm going to guess it's not the golfer John Daly. Anyway, hello, John. My question is regards to Justice League. Do you want to see Cyborg take Martian Manhunter's seat or leave it the same? Thanks, and keep up the amazing work. Well, let's put it this way. Would I rather see Cyborg instead of the Martian Manhunter? From what I understand, the plan, and I have nothing concrete to back this up with, okay? So just take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt, all right? From what I understand, Justice League, the lineup for Justice League has always been and was always going to be Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and Flash. It was going to be the 5. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Flash. That was the 5 that from what I understand, Warner Brothers has always planned on using in their first Justice League film. And so I don't really know that they have any plans to add Cyborg or Martian Manhunter, to be honest. At least to start. I'm sure that once they get a Justice League movie universe going, they'll add members as they go. But I don't think they want to start with too many. I personally, if it was up to me, I wouldn't start with 6, 7, or 8 members. I would start with 5, and I would start with those core 5. I think that's a good core to start with. The general movie-going audience are more familiar with those 5 than they are with a Martian Manhunter or a Cyborg or a Hawkman or whoever else you may want to add to that mix. And I would say if you were going to add a 6th, which I don't think they will and I don't think they should, but they might. I think if you were going to add a 6th, my mind has completely changed on Aquaman in the past 6 months. After reading the Injustice Gods Among Us comic series, after playing Injustice Gods Among Us, and after reading the Aquaman New 52, my mind on Aquaman has completely changed. Aquaman is a known character. He's a known name. And if I were in charge of Warner Brothers now, and everybody should be very happy that I'm not, but if I were in charge of Warner Brothers right now, and I was going to put in a 6th member of that initial Justice League squad, it would probably be Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern, and Aquaman. Remember, I always used to say Aquaman is such a joke. What a useless character, blah, blah, blah. You guys have changed my mind on it. I actually think I would put Aquaman in there. All right, let's take a couple more questions here from the chat board. Holy crap. Okay, a lot of questions have come in. Obviously, I'm not going to get around to most of them. The next one is Carl Oskover. And Carl writes, hey, John, keep up the great work. Thank you so much, Carl. I think there's a lot of hate in Gal Gadot. Oh, she is too skinny. Well, Christian Bale was skinny before Batman Begins and gained a ton of muscle. Oh, she is not a great actress. Well, no one knew Heath. No one knew Henry Cavill. No one knew Chris Hemsworth. And one last thing. Remember the Heath Ledger. Okay, Carl, with the Gal Gadot thing, here's the problem with your argument. Number one, you said, oh, she's not a great actress. And then you say, but remember, no one knew Heath. Who's talking about new? Who cares if people know who she is? That's irrelevant. Popularity is not talent. And if you want to talk Heath Ledger was an Academy Award nominated actor. Let me say that again. Heath Ledger was an Academy Award nominated actor. Heath Ledger was a hit and miss actor. He would turn in some really crappy films, and not just crappy films. I mean, because you can be a good actor in a bad film. Heath Ledger turned in some crappy performances. He did in his career. But he's also turned in some brilliant performances in his career. And once again, Heath Ledger, we're not talking popularity, we're talking talent. Heath Ledger was an Academy Award nominated actor. When you go into when you're going into that from Brokeback Mountain, a lot of critical and awards praise and all that kind of stuff. So Heath Ledger. Well, don't bother mentioning Heath Ledger. He was an Academy Award nominated actor. Nobody knew who Henry Cavill was. You want to know who knew who Henry Cavill was? Almost every talent agent in Hollywood. For years and years and years, Henry Cavill had been targeted by tons of Hollywood casting agencies as a dude with huge star potential and talent. He was looked at to be the new James Bond. He was looked at being Superman before. Basically, long story is everybody on the inside in Hollywood has known who Henry Cavill is for years because of his talent. And he's been looked at major roles for years because of talent. Yes, nobody knew who he was in the general public, but that's irrelevant. Then he mentioned Chris Hemsworth. Nobody knew who Chris Hemsworth was. Yes, but once again, Chris Hemsworth, I remember watching the special on him. He had been targeted by a lot of Hollywood studios for years as a guy everybody knew had huge A-list star potential. And it was just a question of what was going to be the right breakout role for him. And then he made his appearance in Star Trek as Captain Kirk's dad. And then obviously he was Thor. And he beat out a lot of good guys. But he was already known as an actor. He's been acting his whole life. His whole life he's been an actor. His whole family really has been actors. And he had been targeted for a very long time as a dude with huge A-list star talent. Gal Gadot is none of those things. Now, once again, just because I still think it was a mistake that they cast her, I think you stick with her. They made their choice. Now stick with her, develop her the best that you can, and give us the best Wonder Woman you possibly can. So I'm not one of these guys who's calling for Gal Gadot to be fired. Not at all. Was it a mistake to hire her? Yes, it was. But you've hired her. She's your Wonder Woman now. Stick with her and put all of your massive resources into trying to get her to be a much better actress than she is right now, between now and 2016. So that is what I would respond to Carl. All right, I'm going to take just a couple more here, guys. All right, off topic. This next one isn't about Batman versus Superman. Look at that. DBBF writes, pardon me, hey, John, love the show. How was the movie Wreck-It Ralph able to use famous game characters like Bowser and Sonic? What about copyright property issues? These characters do not belong to Disney, do they? No, they don't. But Disney got the rights. They got permission to use their characters. Now, some people like to say, well, then if Disney can do that with other video game characters, why can't they do that with Spider-Man and X-Men and Fantastic Four characters? Because there's no ongoing Bowser and Sonic the Hedgehog movie franchise that another Paramount Studios, for argument's sake, would be worried about how their characters are being portrayed. They knew that was just for a fun little film, throwing their characters for some cameo effect, whatever, but it doesn't affect because they don't have anything ongoing in the movie world as it is, so it's really no problem. I'm not going to go into the whole explanation about why you're not going to see Spider-Man in the Avengers again, why you're not going to see X-Men or Fantastic Four in the Avengers or any of those crossovers. Look up our old videos. I go into great detail about why that will never happen. It's a very different situation from this. But no, Disney just basically went out and said, hey, here's what we're doing. Here's how we would use Bowser. It would be a funny, quick little thing. What do you think? And the company signs off on it and says no problem. All right. Next one comes to us from Josh Burrian. And Josh Burrian writes, "Hello, John. For Jurassic World, what dino/animals do you hope or think will be in the Jurassic Park world?" As long as there's a T-Rex, I'm happy. I'm one of these purists in many ways about, I just like the T-Rex. You give me the T-Rex and I'm happy. I don't think you have to follow the law of diminishing returns and think, well, in a new Jurassic film, you have to have another bigger, badder dinosaur. Remember like they did in Jurassic Park 3, where they had that one dinosaur that actually eats T-Rexes? I don't think you need to do that. I don't think it's necessary. There is nothing not badass about a T-Rex. So I am perfectly happy just having my T-Rex in there. All right. Let's see here. Paul Moutsisis. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, Paul. I'm terrible at names. I'm sorry about that. Paul Moutsius writes, "Hey, John, big fan of AMC Movie Talk. Keep up the great work." Thank you so much, Paul. My question is, I've heard May 6, 2016 is supposedly the date in which an unannounced Phase 3 Marvel film is going to be released. Wouldn't this be an awful decision on Warner Brothers' part, as it would be pretty hurtful to both films? I also feel that the reason they could be pushing it back is because they're afraid of going head-to-head with Avengers 2 and Star Wars at the end of 2015. Your thoughts? Number one, let's address this thing. DC's just afraid of going head-to-head with Marvel. No, they're not. Neither Marvel nor DC want to open their movies on the same day or even within a week of each other. But there's honestly, there's no box office drawback to having a major DC film and a major Marvel film opening 3 weeks apart. Most people see these giant blockbuster films in the first week or two anyway. I don't think it would be damaging to them at all to be open like 3 or 4 weeks apart. DC's not afraid of that. I absolutely guarantee it. However, you're right. As I mentioned earlier, this is kind of interesting. The idea of opening on a May 6, 2016, just 1 week away from when Fox has announced they're going to open X-Men Apocalypse, just 1 week. And I believe it's also just 1 week away from this unnamed Marvel project. Something's got to give. You can't have 3 major comic book films all opening within 2 weeks of each other. You can't do it. It's mutually assured destruction. It'll hurt everybody involved. There will be no winner or loser. They will all lose money. Or let me rephrase that. They will all make less money than they would have if they spaced themselves out a little bit by a few weeks. So I fully expect by the end of 2015, we're going to hear some date changes. Whether it's Marvel moving their unnamed movie project, Fox moving their X-Men project, DC Marvel or DC Warner Brothers moving Batman, Superman by a couple of weeks. I fully expect we're going to hear some date changes between now and then. All right, last one I'm going to take today. And since today's been a Batman vs. Superman, turns out it's a Batman vs. Superman movie. Where is it? Okay, Daniel Meza writes, "Hey, John, love the show. What would you have thought of Jensen Ackles being Batman?" I love Jensen Ackles. Supernatural is pretty much my favorite show on TV right now. I love Supernatural. Pretty close between Supernatural and Arrow as to what are my favorite shows on TV right now. I don't know. I really like Jensen Ackles. I saw him as a Captain America. I really thought Jensen Ackles could have been a pretty decent Captain America. I love the job Chris Evans has done as Captain America. But I remember before they cast Captain America, I was thinking that Jensen Ackles could have been a pretty decent Cap. As a Batman, I don't know. Does he have the talent for it? I think he has the talent for it, but I just don't know that I see that as a fit. I'm a big Jensen Ackles fan, but I don't know that if that Batman would be the right role for him. So yeah. Anyway, sorry guys, I'm losing it. We're getting close to an hour here. We're over 50 minutes, so I think this will be a good time for us to grind today's AMC mailbag to a halt. thank you so much, guys, for once again putting up with me. Gonna let you know, there's not going to be an AMC mailbag tomorrow. Reason being is my wife, Anne, who you all know, Anne is actually leaving for a week to go off on this work project thing out of town. And so I have decided that, number one, it'd be pretty... I work 7 days a week. It'd be good for me to take one day off of talking for an hour for my throat. And also, I'd like to go and spend time with Anne tomorrow. So for tomorrow, there will be no AMC mailbag. Just letting you guys know in advance. If you see other people asking about it, please tell them for me. And remember, guys, most importantly, everything about movies, unless we're talking about facts and numbers and figures, everything about movies is subjective. Just because I think one thing doesn't mean that you should think that one thing. You should have your own opinion, and we're just here to talk about it. And I'm here to throw out my opinion so it can help form your opinion, so you can know why you think I'm wrong or know why you think I'm right or whatever. This is all just fun and discussion. We're all movie fans, and I'm so glad you guys put up with me the hour that we did it today. So thank you so much, guys, for joining me. Don't forget, lots of great movies playing at AMC Theaters right now. Head on over to www.amctheaters.com for your theater, showtime, movie ticket information. Share this video around. Let your friends know about all of our AMC Movie Talk videos. I cannot wait. We're going to be doing our test run on Monday of our brand new AMC Versus show. We're doing our test run through on Monday, and we're going to shoot our first episode next Monday. I'm really excited about it. It's going to be a lot of fun. So thanks a lot for joining me, guys. Love you all. Thanks for talking with me. And we'll see you again on Monday for AMC Movie Talk. Until then, my name is John Campea for AMC Movie News. Till then, bye-bye.